Hey there, Shawn Farquhar here, and welcome back to my channel on YouTube, all about magic. To begin with, a quick shout out to David Palmer, who made such a great comment in my last video on the linking lifesavers. He said, linking lifesavers, cool. Linking certs just doesn't have the same ring to it. I get it. That's a dad joke. Waka, waka, waka. It was, oh, and one more thing. Hi, Julie. Today I'm going to talk about a very famous magician, a Canadian magician, a brilliant magician who most would consider one of the best magicians ever to walk the face of this earth. Stay with me and I'll tell you all about him. But right now, let's play my fast new trailer. Well, that was fun. Thanks for sticking around. So this video is actually being made on June 11th. It's the birthday of a very famous magician. He was born June 11th, 1894. He was born in Ottawa, Canada, and his name was David Frederick Winfield Verner. But most people know him as Dai Vernon. Or if you're a magician, you probably know him as the Professor. If you lived on the East Coast, you might actually pronounce his name Day. On the West Coast, we say Dai. It was a short form for David. He was a brilliant magician in all forms of the art. But most people don't know a lot about him. They only know, well, he did card magic. That's what the general magician remembers. But there's so much more to his life. And when you look at it, you can see that success doesn't come easy to most people. And it didn't come easy to Dai Vernon either. He started magic when he was super young and found a friend in Ottawa, and they did magic together. And there's a great story about that, but I don't know if it's actually true or not, that the very first time they met as friends, they kind of sized each other up, and Dai Vernon just took a deck of cards and said to the guy, so name any card in the deck. He named a card. He said, cut the cards, and when he cut the cards, that was the card. And to the day that gentleman died, he swore by the fact that that's what happened, and he never forgot the card was the Three of Diamonds, which is a great story in itself. Vernon would later say that it was just luck, but they took advantage of it, which is even a better story. But it could be, a little bit of urban legend, or it could be absolutely true. Either way, it's a great story. In 1913, Vernon, at the age of 18, almost 19 years of age, took the summer and went to New York, to Coney Island. He'd studied and learned how to do silhouette cutting, and that's how he made a living, cutting little silhouettes of people on Coney Island. And he did it for the entire summer, and then returned home and joined the Royal Military College in Kingston, Ontario. Yeah, and then World War I came, and he was enlisted and actually became a lieutenant in the artillery division, and soon switched over to the Canadian Air Force. He was in until 1917 when they demobilized him, and he immediately returned to New York. And in New York, he started studying and teaching and doing more silhouettes, and still doing his magic and working jobs. Soon he moved to Chicago and Cincinnati, where he taught art. Yeah. And then returned to New York, where he fell in love, and he married and had his first son. And his passion for magic was so strong that nothing could stand in its way. He met some of the greatest magicians in the world and performed various acts. One that we all know is the Harlequin Act, which was this act dressed as a harlequin. He worked in nightclubs and did amazing things, and became very famous for his linking ring routine, which I showed you a little video on in the last one. But we also, he did some things that wouldn't be cool by today's standards. He portrayed a Chinese magician. I believe it was Dai Ling. It's written in a book. He had a number of books. In fact, he wrote a book called Secrets, which he sold for $20. It gave up all the copyrights for $20. And I think the book is still published today. And people don't even know it was written by Dai Vernon. But in the Dai Vernon Book of Magic by Louis Ganson's this brilliant writer. He was a member of the London Magic Circle, Inner Magic Circle with Gold Star. It's a very elite thing to have. And member of the International Brotherhood of Magicians. In this book, he mentions that Vernon performed at the World Fair in Chicago. But the part that really struck me was that he at one point did an act as a Chinese performer. and he worked under the name of, I think it was, yeah, Dai Yen, and later as Dr. Chung. Boy, that wouldn't go over nowadays. But times were different and people thought differently. Um, this is an absolutely great read. Through World War II, he did USO shows. It talks about a time when he was carrying pails full of mercury and fell off a scaffolding and broke both his arms. And yet, through all the struggle, he continued and became, in my opinion, one of the greatest magicians to ever walk the face of this earth. His theories and his thoughts. And when he turned to card magic and he did just sleight of hand, it became the best. In fact, Max Holden has a quote in here that's really great, and I want to share it with you. He said, I consider Vernon the greatest man with a pack of cards of the present day. Most magicians know him as the professor. He spent most of his life telling people he was the man who fooled Houdini. And if you're not familiar with that, you should Google it. It's a great story. And I can tell it to you, but just be another one. I just want to share that Vernon, this is Revelations of Expert at the Card Table, which he tore apart the book after exploring it and started all. This is a biography that was just recently written by David Ben, a Canadian magician. And it's an excellent read. Here are some of the books that Louis Ganson put out. This is the Book of Magic, like the first one that I showed you there. This is the Secrets of Card Magic. He fooled Houdini. There's the Lost and the Further Lost, and more Lost. It's just there are a ton of books on Vernon, and if you're a magician and a serious student of sleight of hand and close-up magic, even stage magic, you should really look to his writings and begin to understand some of his theories. As you saw in the video, in the last video, he was teaching Doug Henning. And there's a great story of him teaching Gregory Wilson, Mark Wilson's son. And Mark Wilson hired Vernon and said, I want you to teach my son some magic. And so Vernon spent the entire day teaching Greg Wilson how to do the French drop. A very simple magic trick in which there's a coin in a spectator's hand, in your hand, and you make it disappear. And each time he did it, as he made the coin, Greg kept pointing, and Vernon kept saying, stop pointing. They know where the coin is. When you pick up a coin and you put the coin in your hand, you're here, and you do this. This is where the attention goes, and then the coin disappears. And Greg each time would do this and point, and Vernon would slap his hand and say, don't do that. You don't want to point. It's just natural. People will understand that when you pick up a coin, this is where the coin goes. It just makes sense. And took all day, but he got it. And Greg is a masterful magician now. But the story goes that when the day ended and Mark Wilson, brilliant Mark Wilson, came to collect Greg from his lesson, he said, well, what did you learn today? And Greg said, I learned the French drop. And said, watch. And he went like this. And Mark said, that's great, but you forgot the point. Yeah. Okay, so different fields of, yeah. So why are we talking about Vernon today? Because I think it's important to share, if you're a student of magic, that you'd learn about that. And if you love magic, I want you to go out and look and Google and find some videos on Vernon so you can experience some really great magic. Not the type of magic that's become more popular today of, oh, I freaked you out, but more subtle, elegant, beautiful magic. This was Dai Vernon, the professor. I met him in the early 80s, in 1983. I went to Santa Barbara, California. The Pacific Coast Association of Magicians held a convention, and I was just attending, and sitting at the bar rail was Dai Vernon. I was gobsmacked. It was just unbelievable. And I didn't get up enough courage to say hello to him, but I stared at him for hours. I watched him do some magic. People showed magic tricks to him. I went to a session where it was a question and answer, and John Carney was hosting it, and Vernon would answer questions from the audience. And there was a great moment in that. They asked people things like, what did you think of Max Malini? And he said, oh, Max Malini was a great magician, and he would wait. He would wait until, this is my Vernon impression, by the way, he would wait until the right moment to do something. He would have something hidden for an hour, and if nobody asked, then he didn't do it. But he waited for the right moment, and I thought that was really cool. Of course, John then translated it out, basically saying what Vernon said is that he thinks he was very clever, and that it was all about timing and making the magic happen almost organically. And they said, what did you think of Houdini? He said, he's an effing asshole. And he said he's not very popular with it. Yeah, it was a very great moment. The next few days, Vernon was there. I basically followed him around like a puppy, but didn't get to talk to him. And then it was over. And I'd heard through the grapevine that there was going to be a big special party the next Saturday for Ed Marlowe, famous magician from the East Coast, Chicago area. And it was going to be held at the Magic Castle. And so I hopped in my van and I drove to the Magic Castle, hoping to crash the party. I arrived and went up to the door, and I was succinctly told by a lady by the name of Jean Cantor, who was the host at the door. She said, "I'm sorry, this is a private event. It's a private club. You look like you're under 21 and you're not dressed." And she was right. And I left feeling really dejected, walked down the hill. As I was walking down the hill, there was an apartment building on the right-hand side, and it had a little sign that said apartment for rent. And to me, that was really cool. Being a young kid from British Columbia, Canada, I looked at it and thought, wow, to live this close to the Magic Castle, I wonder how much the rent was. There was a man sitting on a park bench right in front, reading a newspaper. And I said, "Excuse me, sir, do you know how much the rent is here?" And from behind the paper, he said, "You don't want to stay here. The apartment that's for rent is on the alley. They'll break in through the windows and steal your stuff. You should go home from wherever that accent comes from." And I slowly leaned over the paper and said, "Oh my God, you're Dai Vernon." And he goes, "Oh, and you're a magician." And I said, "No, you're David Frederick Winfield Verner. You were born in Ottawa, Canada." And he said, "What are you, my biographer?" And I said, "No, I'm just a huge fan." And he was, "Oh, so you're here for the Marlowe thing?" And I said, "Well, I'd hope to go." But and he says, "Well, not dressed like that." And I said, "Pardon?" He said, "Well, you're not dressed right." I said, "Yeah, but I also don't have an invitation." And he said, "Well, do you have a jacket?" And I said, I yes." And he said, "Well, 1 second." And he reached in his pocket and he pulled out a business card and he wrote on the back of it, "Let the boy in." And that was my invitation. I raced down the hill to Hollywood Boulevard and I bought a jacket because no, I didn't have a jacket, but I got a jacket and I raced back up the hill. And Vernon was no longer sitting on the bench. And I got up to the door, walked in the door. The lady looked at me and said, "Well, you're dressed better, but you still need an invitation." I said, I believe I do. And I showed it to her. And she smiled and said, "You do." She went on the paging system and she called for Princess Irene, which was Irene Larson. And she was the wife of one of the founders of the Magic Castle. And Irene came down and met me. Jean showed her the card, and Irene walked me up the stairs. Outside of the Palace of Mystery was Vernon and Marlowe sitting at a table, surrounded by a bunch of people. And she walked me through the crowd so that Vernon could see me. And he asked me to sit down. Bruce Servon got above his seat, and I sat down, and he did some magic for me. It was the greatest day of my entire life. It was my first time being in the Magic Castle. I stayed for the entire evening underage. But at home, I was of age, so I was already drinking since I was, 18 years of age, and I was 20, so I was close to being legal age. I had a couple of drinks, and then I thought I better not drink anymore. I just want to see magic, and I still wanted to have something in my hand, so it was occupied. So I asked the bartender, "What would you suggest?" And he said, "Why don't you have an iced tea?" And I said, "That'd be great." He said, "Long Island iced tea?" I said, "That would be awesome." I didn't know that Long Island iced teas were alcoholic. It was an exciting night. I saw so much magic, did so much. It was just a brilliant time, and I always remember it. And I remember how kind Vernon was to me. In fact, the next day was Sunday brunch, and I had booked to go to the brunch because I was allowed to, being young. And I showed up for brunch, and I was sitting practicing just in the lobby area a move. And Vernon came by and looked and said, "What are you doing?" And I said, I'm practicing this move." And he said, "Show it to me." And I did it. He said, "Do it again." So I did it again. He goes, "Do it with a card face up." And I did it with a card face up. And he looked at me and says, "Well, it's not shit," and walked away. For years, I thought that was an insult, that it wasn't good. It wasn't only, well, it was probably 2 decades later when somebody said, "That's a huge compliment from Vernon." And now I look back and think, I think that's very cool. I'm going to show you a magic trick using Vernon's photograph. Yeah, there is a magic trick in this video, but here it is. Before we start, I'm going to fold the photo in half. I know it sounds like it's sacrilege, but it's all right. Vernon loved magic above all things, and I think he would love this. In fact, I'm going to put his birth date on here, which is 06, and then 11, and then 94. Because it was 1894. 1894. Wow, so long ago. This is the same photograph, just want to be clear. And I'm going to give it a little tear right here. Yes, I'm tearing up Vernon's photograph. But remember, it's a magic trick. That's 2 pieces. Help, help, help. Shawn's tearing me in. Okay, I'll put it together again like this and tear them down this edge. That's 4 pieces of a photograph all together. But you can see the pieces because you can see the autograph on here, which is really like the birth date on there. which is important. As long as you can see the birth date on there, here, I'll spread them out so you can see them a little bit better. As long as you can see his birth date on there, you know that this is the same photograph at all times. In a moment, I'm going to put the pieces back together, which is cool. Vernon said that simplicity and not showing flourishes is important, so I'm going to do this as slow as possible so you see the moment of magic transpire. Isn't that crazy? It went back together. Yeah, but if you look really closely, the astute eye will notice the edges of the photograph are torn. Can you see that? They're not all the same. There's little torn edges everywhere. Why is that? Well, it's because I put the photo together. I just put it together wrong. I put it together like this because Dai Vernon was unique, one of a kind, and so is this. Thanks for watching my videos. Keep well, keep busy, and we'll see you at the next one. Bye for now. Oh, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, hit the notifications, tell your friends, share the video. I got to remember to say all that stuff. You guys have done an awesome job for me in the last 28 days. We've had more than 750 subscribers. Numbers are going up, and I'm really enjoying doing this. I hope you're enjoying watching them. Thanks for listening to my long story, my cool magic trick. Bye for now. You're still here? Yeah. If I do a fake ending on every one of these, people are going to know that all the time, and then they're just going to watch. I want it to be a surprise. So there's no fake ending this time, unless you consider this a fake ending. But there's no magic trick. Okay, bye.